Let's get into it. Yeah. Started from nothing. Now I charge per breath. I was overlooked. Now I'm booked past death. Had tables turned. I flipped the room. Now they whisper my name like I'm bad juju. I birthed trends they try to mimic. Did it solo, ain't no gimmick. They took notes while throwing shade. Now they pressed and I got paid. I'm not one of them. I'm one of one. Trying to match my glow. Baby, you're outdone. I'm made for bigger. Now basic. Made for thrones, not fake shit. I don't chase, I check. I don't follow, I flex. I'm made for bigger things. Tell the room I said what I said. Big body blessings, big boss moves. Try me and end up a lesson. They talk about me in rooms I don't enter. I haunt them like regret, make them bitter in the center. I'm that girl, the headline in the smoke. They playing in mirrors, I'm shattering yoga. All right, everyone. Welcome back to 90.1 WMPR out of Jackson, Mississippi. And I thank you guys for joining me for another session with Ask Astria, talking about life, health, and the pursuit of fitness. All right, guys. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Green. Did I say that? I said that correctly. It's a pretty simple name. How are you, Dr. Green?
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me.
No problem. So, Dr. Green, you work out of Jackson, Flowood, Mississippi. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do?
Yes, ma'am. I primarily take care of diseases that affect the kidneys as well as general health maintenance, primary care. And I've been doing that now for about 17 years. And we are located on Lakeland Drive, currently in Flowood, about a block up from GI Associates, just to kind of orient people where we are. The clinic is called Good Faith Wellness.
Okay. Good Faith Wellness. I like that. So I'm trying to, I think that's the first time I personally have ever heard of a doctor's office. It sounds like a wellness center. And then I want to kind of go into what you just said, because I think I, for one, need a little, I want to get a little understanding. You said you take care of kidneys.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said general health maintenance.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I take care of all people except kids. And and so because so many diseases affect the kidneys, and the kidneys are integral to functions of every organ in the body. So I do a lot of primary care, but in particular, I do special care for those who have isolated diseases that affect their kidneys.
Okay, I'm gonna get into that a little bit more, because I need a little understanding between. Well, I guess we can go into that now. What you said, primary care and general health maintenance. I don't think I understand the difference between the two.
Well, the truth of the matter is that most people aren't sick. Most people will have some encounter with their health at some point, but if you read the obituaries, a lot of people will make it to 70 and 80 and not have any chronic comorbidities. But I think that the discussion about health usually interacts with the healthcare setting, because in our conscious, we want to prevent disease and prevent bad things from happening when we can. And that's primarily where I like to target my practice. Monitoring, because actually those people who won't have anything don't know that they're those people, and the people who do have things don't know that they're the people who won't have anything. So we have to monitor. And so I make myself available for that monitoring, as well as isolated things that come up when you have colds and flus and rashes and all those kind of temporary things. But when I get kind of keyed into my job, it's things that are a little bit more complicated, including the sequelae, or things that happen after you have long-term and sometimes undiagnosed hypertension, if you have undiagnosed or uncontrolled diabetes. Those are the two biggest things in our community, but also things like inactivity due to osteoarthritis and just kind of wear and tear, joint disease, so lung diseases, those kind of things.
Okay. So, I mean, general health maintenance and primary care. I guess my mind is kind of going, it kind of is the same thing, or do I just go, I just come to you just to get regular checkups, even though I know that I'm healthy for general health maintenance. And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
primary care when I have a cold or something, that's the primary care. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, yeah, to some degree. I think though that we try to encourage an ongoing relationship between healthcare providers, whether those are physicians or mid-level providers, which are like nurse practitioners or physician assistants. And so when we talk about just that healthcare maintenance, then we talk about things that may come up within that ongoing relationship. And so primary care is more reflective of the conversation about ongoing relationships with your providers.
I think talking about that is a show all on its own. So I'm gonna slide away from that for right now. But everybody, you hear that, right? You see that there is a general health maintenance category when you about going to see your doctor. I did not know that. So we've learned, that's one thing that I've learned today. So I thank you for that. Where are you from, Dr. Green?
I'm from a very rural area that is between two rural towns, Bolton and Edwards, and that's pretty much that's the core of who I am as a person. Is just a country boy who went to the city and learned a little something. And I'm trying to come back and do some country folks some good.
Do you ever go back to, so you, wait a minute, you said you're from a town in between Bolton and
Well,
Edwards.
it's not
How
a
is that
time.
possible? Because
I
it's
know.
like a link and you've
Well, it's
gone to
not a.
both of them.
it-
So
it's not a town, but for those folks who are listening, who are members of Chapel Hill Missionary Baptist Church out that way, Mount Elizabeth, who live off 467, they know that we got an area all of our own,
you have a
and
postal zip code.
right, right. So yeah, 39066, 39051, 041.
All right. Let's see. I think I might have. He might have. You froze up on me, Dr.
Oh,
Green.
sorry. It's the weather. We're gonna blame it on that.
It is the weather. The weather is horrible. But we're gonna make it through it by the grace of God. All right. So you are from. So are we gonna say Bolton or Edwards?
Well, I grew up with a
I think we need to pick one.
I grew up with an Edwards address and a Bolton phone number. So you take
Go to
that.
school.
I went to school, funny enough, in Raymond.
Mississippi. I love my state. I love my state.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't know how many of you all that are watching or listening in that are from a your state has cities like this, but you never know. I mean, it's like you go across the street and you're in a whole nother town. I
That's
love it.
right.
I
That's
love it.
right.
All right. Do you ever go back there,
Oh
Dr.
yes,
and
yes,
speak?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm there frequently. My mother lives there, and so yes, ma'am. I'm there all the time. Matter of fact, there's a little store called Gaddis McLaurin, and yeah, I'm always in there getting some kind of spray or getting some turnip green seeds. I mean, so yeah, I'm there all the time.
Turnip green seeds. So you plant and you garden, you do that type of stuff.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a collard gardening, although I don't always get out of my garden what I ought to. The birds and the and the
You
deer seem to beat me to it. So,
the environment. I love it. All right. So, Dr. Green, if you would tell me a little bit about growing up in your area and what inspired you to get into the profession of taking care of people's kidneys. That's very specific. I've always wondered kind of how do people go into specialties? Did you come out of medical school and say I want to go into, taking care of I'm just gonna say taking care of kidneys. I apologize if I
yeah,
sound like
no. That's exactly what I like to think that I do. But funny enough, I where I grew when and where I grew up, there wasn't a whole lot of resources, and back then we knew how to come together as a community. And my grandparents had always been maintaining farms, and we killed a lot of hogs, usually in the fall.
oh,
So I actually had a fascination with kidneys going back to my childhood, 3, 4 years old. If anybody knows anything about killing hogs, you get up early in the morning and you slaughter the hogs, and while you're slaughtering, you isolate the kidneys out, and you pair them and you boil them first, and then you sit them on the side and you roast them. And so by the time you end up doing a lot of the other work of scalding the hog and removing all the skin and getting them ready to be portioned, there was this reservation of that kidney for the men that work the hardest. And I always associated the kidneys with that kind of that kind of um, elevated status. That if you work hard, that this is the reward. And so that's where I got my first.
You
Yes,
get to
ma'am.
eat kidneys. I don't know how I feel about that,
Oh,
but
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I
It was a
the
it.
concept and I like the our culture behind that. But see, I'm from the country. I remember my granddad going out, and they went to kill the hogs. And when they went to kill a hog, because it was always one hog that they would kill, they never killed all the hogs. They would kill a hog. But see, I'm a girl. I'm a woman,
Hmm.
a female.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes,
we
ma'am.
sat on the porch. We didn't
Yes,
go
ma'am.
out there. We would see the guys, the boys, the men go out there and do all that. So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
never saw them cut anything. And then I would see the animals hanging from the tree. And
Yes,
after
ma'am.
they skin the deer, they've done all they're gonna do with the hog, and you might even have a rabbit hanging out there.
Hmm.
They would
Yeah.
bring them inside, and that's where I was. I was on a screened in porch.
Yes,
See,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
people
Because
think
there's
they're from
lots of
the country, but when
right.
you're from
Oh,
girl, I wasn't, I was sitting on the porch in a screened in porch with a cup of sweet tea. And, there might be a fan and there's a chair when we all sit there. That's where
right.
I come from.
Yes, ma'am.
And when they brought the meat in, that's when we would take the meat and we would cut the meat up, process it. We would make hot sauce. Our
House, right. Right. Ball up. Right.
huge tin, and she would tell the girls to come over, and we would all have our hands in,
That's
and we
right.
were, hey, South, see,
Right. Right.
I don't
Okay.
young face fool you, I got the country in me. So that's awesome. So kidneys, for you, you associated kidneys as a young male from the South. You associated kidneys with hard work
Yes, ma'am.
being a reward.
That's right.
And so I still want to get to how that flowed into you going into the medical field and taking care of kidneys.
Well, people often ask me how I got to medicine, but I don't know. I think I just counted to God that that's what He wanted me to do. I've never wanted to be anything else but a physician. And I think that two things happened for me at a young age. I had a grandmother who was very active in taking care of people in the community, whether it's through church. When folks would get sick, you'd go by and you'd visit. My great grandmother was also a midwife, so I'd had that exposure as well. But I think it was just kind of being introduced to lots of pathology as I was growing up, and in particular, there was one family that I can remember very, very young that the mother got diagnosed with having to be put on the kidney machine. Now, I didn't know what that meant at the time, but it was very apparent to me when, she started getting the darkness of her skin. She started losing weight. She just was not mobile. I mean, everybody just, people would talk. So, having that exposure and seeing the kidney machine is such a terrible thing. That's part of how I saw, okay, well, the kidneys in this hog are reward, but when things go bad, they can have impacts, whether that's socially or just on that individual person. But I'll tell you, the other thing was that the Cosby Show came out.
Okay.
And so having a black doctor on television just made that dream a little bit more real to me. So I'll just take an aside just to say that I think that it is very important that we engage our young folks in this climate right now where everything that is DEI or that is kind of devoted to diversity is castigated. I think it's very important for us as a community to make sure that we reach back and introduce those topics to young folks. But nonetheless, together with the idea that I could be what I wanted to be, and that this thing was important and had impact on these folks that I knew, that both led to me, wanting to be a physician.
As I grow in my, I'm just gonna say my industry, which is health and fitness.
Hmm.
I'm not a physician. I work with helping the healthcare industry. And I remember being little saying, I don't know what I want to be. I just know I want to be in the health field helping people. And I
Hmm.
really do think that if you go into the health field, the healthcare industry, it's something that's in you that wants to do it. It's not something that I don't know. It's just something purposeful about being in the industry of healthcare, and you have to really want to help people.
Totally
Um,
agree.
So I appreciate you going into this field as I do all doctors, nurses. I'm talking about receptionists. I'm talking about it takes a lot to make healthcare works because, as you said, someone getting on a kidney machine, and I wonder. I mean, I don't know how much you know about kidney machines or when you say kidney machine, are we talking about dialysis?
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
And really at that time,
At that
knowing only about one version of dialysis, but there's there's a lot. We'll get into that probably, but things are so much different now that I'm excited to be in the field to offer that to patients.
That's what I was thinking about, man. I'm sure that I could have just now that you said that, and I thought about you've taken me back to rabbits hanging on from a tree and making sows, and I'm thinking about that time. I'm like, oh my gosh, a kidney being on a kidney machine at that time. What could that have been like? What could that
Oh,
process have been like?
yeah, I'll tell you what's probably not known about nephrology and kidney machines, but the the enterprise to create dialysis centers all across the nation
Hmm.
was actually spurred significantly by UMC. There was a physician there, Dr. Bauer, and he went to the floor of the Senate in the 1970s and demonstrated a patient being on dialysis, and that's part of the reason that dialysis is reimbursable by Medicare today, based on that physician and his work and being an advocate for it way back in the 70s. But it was a little different back then. It's been a lot more standardized now. And so lots of those things that we used to see, we can anticipate better. Those discolorations, the weight loss, depression, and lots of things. We know so much more about it. But yeah, a lot of those efforts were started in Mississippi primarily because we have a large population of people, whether those are African Americans or the Native Americans, kind of towards the north of the state, who suffer from kidney disease. So that was a lot of prevalence of those issues, so that physicians could be able to learn.
And so, so before you get to the stage where you're on dialysis, before you get to that stage, I mean, well, I'm just going to start here. Are there some things that we can do to take care of our kidneys? Specific things. I know, you can put lemon on your skin. You can put hair. I have to get off of social media because I find myself going to the grocery store buying things that I can't pronounce because I'm like, oh, this says it's going to take care. But then you find out that this thing, like turmeric or something, takes care of more than one thing. But are there things that we might eat every day that we probably need to focus on making sure it stays in our diet, that can help us take care of our kidneys? I mean, how does
Well,
someone develop a kidney problem? I mean, where does that cross up? I never even think about it. And I think a lot of us don't think about kidneys and we don't know what to do to take care of our kidneys. Because I've never told someone, I tell people, if you want to lower your blood pressure, we're going to really, when somebody comes to me and say, as a personal fitness professional, I need to lower my blood pressure, I'm going to focus on cardio, right?
hmm
I'm going
hmm
to focus on cardio. We go a little faster, we go slower, we do these things and I watch your heart rate and those type of things. Diabetics, that's a different thing. We're increasing muscle mass so that we can be able to break down the glucose, right? And so I've never thought about taking care of kidneys.
hmm hmm Yeah, well, there are, of course, the first step is just good old common sense, diet and exercise. But the problem is, by the time you start paying attention to that common sense, you've had a life of Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's French
Oh,
fries
that's-
and
you gotta
uh,
break down that diet. People always say, well, you need to have a good diet and exercise. Well, honestly, a diet is just what you eat.
that's right,
So
that's right,
what is that?
right.
Or what should
Um,
we be eating? I don't know.
so from in medicine now, we have a number of diets. Of course, the best one is a thing we call a Mediterranean diet, and it is very kind of high proportion towards legumes. So we're talking about peas and
What's
high
a
five.
You got to
What's that?
stop right there. What
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a legume?
yeah.
And I'm asking for the people
Yeah,
behind.
absolutely,
What
absolutely,
is a
absolutely.
legume?
things that we eat already, peas and butter beans and
Okay.
those kind of things where you can get a lot of protein basically from the seeds of a plant. Because remember that those seeds are designed to be their own independent thing. Should they get spread and planted somewhere, so they've got a certain source of carbohydrates, but it's in a healthy proportion because it's been designed to be a baby, for that plant, down the road. And as humans, of course, we domesticate those efforts for our benefit. And so, but the problem is that sometimes we get a little heavy with the ham hocks. There's green fruits and vegetables are great, but sometimes it's the things that the ways we choose to enhance those foods, partially culturally, partially just because we got the means to do so now, that kind of throws us from those common sense diets. When I was growing up, we might have like that kind of proportion of steak and ham hock and those kind of things for past anniversary in October. You may get it during Christmas, but we didn't eat that every day. Now we can have it every day. There's no day if I feel like I want to have a roast or some ribs, I'm gonna go have it. Matter of fact, and it's not a point that I highlighted. That Dr. Robert Smith, he says it all the time. When he first moved to Mississippi, the primary problem was starvation. You just didn't have enough to eat. Now the problem is obesity because we have an abundance of these things that just taste good, donuts and these unsaturated fats that we put in our diet, and the body is just not used to those proportions that we have, and so that creates an important change in our individual households. Now I won't take a side to talk about the fact how hard it is to have an environment where somebody's cooking in the kitchen every day, and that we have the resources to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, because they're just not available sometimes. But nevertheless, that would be the first steps is to have a vigorous, planned exercise activity, as well as a planned
Like,
diet for yourselves and your families. That'd be step number one, because ultimately the problem is that some kidney diseases are just kind of encoded in your DNA.
mm,
You just have a likelihood to develop hypertension or diabetes or things that affect the kidneys, kind of autoimmune diseases where your body attacks its own self. Some of those just in our makeup. But the sad part about it is that most of the diseases that we see are preventable, and they could be done so by just changes in the way we eat and preventing diabetes or preventing obesity through our exercise.
you know, I used to, when I started to hear about kidney issues and challenges, I've always been a big water drinker. And I
Hmm.
remember my grandmother, she was a diabetic. And from diabetes, she ended up having to go in onto dialysis. Now, me being the grandchild, there was certain things about her medical conditions that I just didn't know. And I didn't even think to ask. I just wanted to know what's going on with grandma, right?
Hmm.
And so, I mean, I just knew that one point she was diabetic, and the next thing I knew, she was going to dialysis 3 days a week.
Mm.
And I was
Right.
like, man, that's a lot. That's a lot to go to dialysis. I do want to ask you, could you maybe go through and explain when someone is going to dialysis, what is happening? What is the process? What are they doing? What does dialysis do for you?
Yes, ma'am. And I want to come back to, but you just mentioned something else about proper water intake. I just want to just take a second to discuss that. I always say there's an 8 by 8 rule. So if you drink 8 glasses of 8 ounces of water, so that's usually about 64 ounces of water a day. But if
Mhm.
you don't want to do the math, everybody who goes to the restroom knows what color their urine is. And so, to keep it simple, just to drink enough water so that your urine is clear. Okay, so that's. I just want to take that second.
When you say
Uh,
clear, hold on, I'm sorry. And hopefully we can get back on track. I'm gonna write down kidney dialysis process so we don't
uh-huh.
forget that, because I do want to make sure, because I never knew what that process was and what it actually did. I just knew she went to clean her kidneys, and it was something about her blood. But we'll get back
Hmm.
to that. But when you know, drinking water and clear urine, it's like I can only get clear urine right after I drink the water. If I wait an hour after that,
It's back. Yes,
it's
yes,
back
ma'am. Right.
dark yellow. And what is clear? I mean,
Well,
how clear does it be?
okay.
Because
So,
I'm like,
so
I drink nothing but water, but my urine is not that clear.
right, right, right. So let me. So we use a term called amber, right?
Okay.
And so what does that? What does that mean? Excuse me, just a second.
I thought that would maybe your tornado warning. I was like, you
No, 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 no. I'm
so
in I'm
I'm
in the
not
hospital, and
okay.
so there's some event that's going on. Uh, but to the degree that I hope that the audience can still hear me. Yeah. So your goal is to so if you're that close where when you drink water it clears up and then it's it's kind of yellow tinged. Let me say it that way. That's where you want to be. But we know when water gets orange,
Well, you
it gets.
said clear, and so I go to the
I
restroom,
appreciate it.
he's not clear, and I'm like, okay, it has hit. It's coming out of me, and it hit some water, so it should have diluted a little bit, and it's
Yeah.
still yellow. This is not clear,
Can, let,
so
and just what I mean, we could talk a whole hour about water consumption, and so I'm nerdy enough to welcome that, but I'm gonna resist the temptation. But I do want to talk about the fact that you said, when you drink water, generally what happens is that you have to go right then. That's a good sign. It's actually a sign that your body is kind of where it wants to be in terms, because it's basically throwing away the water you just took in. Okay. Sometimes if you drink some water and you don't go to the restroom immediately, that's a sign that you're basically having to pay back a water deficit. And so that but for those folks,
frame of immediately
oh, I'm saying within 30 minutes. Within
within.
30
Okay,
minutes. Yeah, within 30 minutes. If you're having to go to the restroom, that's a fairly good sign. But it's a good sign in the sitting that the body, and I'm talking about your fingernails, I'm saying everything has basically biochemically, biologically agreed that this is where we want to be. Because when you put in that extra water, the kidneys detect, okay, there's this extra. We want to keep things the same, and so we're going to get rid of that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you couldn't stand to have more water in your body. It's just where your body has basically accepted that this is where you're going to be. I recommend that the addition of fiber and chia seeds to a diet for those who can do it for one reason. Um, when there's fiber in the inside of your gut, then
mm-hmm.
it holds on to water. Okay, it's not just water like free to be absorbed, it's being held on to. And so then it's released to the walls of your colon to be absorbed at a slower rate. And so instead of it getting to your blood all at once, it's a little at a time. And the kidneys do not detect that change as much. And so you get to hold on to that water because
Okay,
there's not a big change all of a sudden. It's a little change all day. And
okay,
so that's one thing we're talking about, diet and exercise, lots of fiber. And when I say fiber, I'm talking about greens. I'm talking about, fiber supplements, if you will. I'm talking about wheat, flour, if for those who can do that. But
mhm.
even corn, has a good a bit of fiber. But anyway, adding that to your diet will allow you to be better hydrated over the long run because your body doesn't get that kind of mini shock of water where you have to pee off. But let me get back to the 8x8 and what's going on with the body with dialysis. Essentially, your body, your kidneys job is to do one two things, and I'm trying to simplify it in terms for the audience, but mostly it is to take the things that are in your blood, okay, and decide what you need to keep. Everything that you don't need to keep, it puts in your urine so you can throw away, and then it returns back to the body the things that you do need to keep. And
Okay,
then in the things that you throw away are extra acids, certain toxins that are kind of byproducts of necessary kind of metabolic processes that you have, things that are breaking down that just kind of need to be thrown away, similar to what you do in your own house. You know, if you go through a kitchen drawer, you throw out what you don't need and you keep what you do. And so when you lose the ability to do that, then you have to throw those things away some kind of way. Now, that's one part of it. The other part is that the kidneys do a lot of they create a lot of hormones, and so they're involved with lots of getting rid of phosphorus, which can be a problem with retaining calcium through making vitamin D. The kidneys actually also help you stimulate your body to make red cells so that you're not anemic. So there's lots of things that the kidney does in terms of just making hormones. So at any rate, when you lose either of those functions, then our job as a nephrologist is, as those functions are insufficient, we try to replace them. So if your body's not getting rid of enough acid, we try to neutralize the acids that you're holding on to by using something simple like baking soda. It's in a pill. We call it sodium bicarbonate, but it's basically a baking soda that will neutralize that will neutralize it. And so we also watch your blood levels so that you don't get anemic. And so when I say anemic, I'm talking about that you don't have enough red cells that will carry oxygen to your body. Your muscles need oxygen, and if they're not being delivered, then you can feel fatigued and tired and all those kind of things. And so bone diseases come into play because we have to replace the vitamin D. So those kind of things that we do. But when they advance to the point where we're not able to do that just with medicines, then we look for dialysis to
This.
do that. And dialysis is basically when you take the body's dirty blood, let me call it dirty because it's got toxins in it, and you expose it to clean blood so that those toxins or those things that you don't want kind of get transferred to that clean fluid.
So are you using my blood or are you
Yes.
in my
Yeah.
blood? Okay.
Yes. There's two kind of dialysis, and so one is the blood dialysis when we talk about the kidney machine.
Mm-hmm.
So we use a bunch of different ways to plug into your blood, and we take the blood out of your body. We then that blood is then exposed to a filter. All right, where some things are too big to go through that filter, and so then what we're looking at is only the kind of fluid portions that will. All right, and on the other side of that filter, just like if you think about it as a strainer, on the other side we've got that clean fluid, and
Uh-huh.
the body takes advantage of that clean fluid to put the dirty stuff into it.
Okay.
The clean fluid that gets exposed and then becomes dirty gets
Uh-huh.
thrown away, and then that clean blood now gets returned back to your body.
What? Okay. So
And
what?
so,
Okay, so bone marrow,
uh-huh.
isn't that like where blood is made or the foundation?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So the bone marrow is where the blood is made. However, it requires a signal, many signals, but one of which is called erythropoietin, and that basically says we want them to graduate earlier or slower, depending on the number of kids that are in school, or when it's the body's sake, we want more blood cells or less blood cells. And
Mm-hmm.
so that erythropoietin, we call it EPO sometimes as the medicine we use, that kind of controls how fast those cells are released.
Okay.
But of those cells, once it gets to be the red blood that you see kind of going through your body,
Mm-hmm.
it the cells are in a fluid mixture. In that fluid, we call it serum, is electrolytes and proteins and all the stuff that your body needs to kind of keep itself going. And unfortunately, if your kidneys are not able to kind of process that and throw things away, the
Mm-hmm.
clutter can create a bunch of different problems.
Okay. So the kidneys is the dialysis machine. Am I?
Exactly. That's
I
exactly
got
right.
it. Look
That's
at me.
exactly right.
All right.
That's
So
exactly right.
I want to go back to water.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, I want to go back to water. Can you have too much water when it comes to your kidneys?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when we talk about water intake, and this is me being a nerd again,
Come on. I'm
uh,
okay. That's what you're here for. I
look,
need all the
look,
word to come on out.
I'm also a pretty decent cook. Now, the people who's listening on the radio, most of them I think will agree, but I'm a pretty good cook. So, one thing, if I go in and make a pot of soup, one thing that you don't want is too much water in that soup. Right, you want it to
Right.
have the right amount of potatoes and all that kind of stuff. So I want you to imagine making a pot of soup. All right, and you got some guests, and you need some more soup. Right, what ideally you don't want to do is just to put water in that soup, right? Because then what's in there is too dilute. It may have been good when it before,
What?
but right. So I want to add in not only the water, but if I'm making vegetable soup, I want to add in the vegetables that I had in the rest of it. I basically want to add what was already there, right?
Okay.
All
Mm-hmm.
right. And so if you drink too much water, it's the same thing. You can dilute what your body already has. And that's why it's important for the kidneys to see this, say, okay, you know what? I don't like all this water I like the way that my blood soup tasted before she did that. She took that
Mm-hmm.
water. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna dip out that water she just drank and throw it away. Okay. That's
Okay.
a and to talk about the slow process of when you can have fiber in your diet as compared to that, you know, I can just pour a little bit. You know, I'm cooking that soup, and when it gets good, of course, is when you let it sit all day. But of course, it's lost water over the day because some of it is boiled off. All right.
Right.
Okay. So then I have to add a little water constantly to keep that soup just right. And that's what most of our water is for. When our body is throwing away those toxins, it requires water.
Okay.
And so to replace the water that the body had to use in order to throw those toxins away, I've
Mm-hmm.
got to put in a little at a time. And so that usually like a constant flow
Oh,
with the fiber in your diet would
mm,
allow you to put it in a little at a time
so
constantly rather than all of a sudden all at once.
so it's like drinking a little bit of water. So it really is best to walk around with a gallon of water all day and just drink on it all day versus trying to go ahead and chug all your water at one time.
Yes,
Would
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
that,
You chug all your water at one time, you're gonna pee it all out.
you're gonna pee it all out, and so your body really won't be able to absorb it or use it the way that.
Exactly.
Look at me
Exactly.
translating what the
Exactly.
doctor said. I hope you all are listening today because
Oh
today is
yeah.
the message. I love it. Okay, so you can have too much water, and I used to tell my clients because I didn't know, and I used to tell my clients because they felt like they would be like I would tell them the 8 ounces, right? That because that's the standard, that's the base amount of water that your body needs in order to operate and function the way that it needs to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eight
Right.
ounces.
Right.
Give me that at least. And so I would tell them because they would say I can't drink all that water, but that's because we would take a look at lifestyle, and I would be like, you need to move. I need your body to move because you're not giving your body a reason to need to use the water.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, am I kind of on the right track? And it actually worked. I
Well,
mean, because to me that was the safest answer for that for them
yeah,
rather
yeah,
than go to
but
the doctor.
and no, I mean, I think it's good advice. But you know, there are times when I say like, you know, that pot is boiling, right? So you're gonna you're not always lose water at that low temperature.
Uh
Some,
huh.
you know, one of your kids will come through and knock and turn the stove up, thinking that that's what you wanted, right? And so
Right.
there's some conditions where you're going to lose water faster. Diarrhea, inference, you know, if you get your stomach bug, so then you've got to be aware to increase your fluid intake, water intake, at least to account for the fluids you lose in your stool. When you have a fever, right, you're boiling water, you're sweating, right? So when you exercise, you're sweating. So you have to be aware to replace those not only with water but good diet. Because remember, we don't want to add just water back into our soup. We want to add in stuff that's more like what's already there. Gatorade is the commercial attempt to do that. But you know, you don't have to spend your money on Gatorade, just water and a good and and a balanced diet. You know,
So
that takes up to know.
I'm glad you mentioned Gatorade because this
Uh-huh.
was another thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to kidneys. People are always, I've had clients to tell me I don't like how water tastes, and I have to take at least 5 seconds and just look at them. I'm like,
Hmm.
what are you talking? First of all, if your water tastes like something, don't drink it.
Well, look,
Say don't.
I'm gonna put a pin right here. All those folks out there in Bolton and Edwards, our water tastes good, and it tastes like something. And so, but I'm gonna leave it at
It tastes like
that.
need you to bottle that up and sell it. Okay, so frozen water.
Yeah,
Okay, but
but you'd have to put it in a container that's not clear because not everybody likes the way that our water looks now. So I know there's a water crisis, but but
oh,
nevertheless,
that's another show.
that's a whole nother talk. Right,
That's a
right, right, right.
debate. I don't know about that. We had to bring some science. I need a couple of people on here to talk
That's
about
right.
that.
That's right. That's right.
And it tastes good. What's in the ground? But that's okay. So you almost have a well. Another conversation. Let's get
Another conversation.
on
Another
track. On
conversation.
track.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
but water enhancements. People are always like, well, can I use this water enhancement? Some water enhancements, they're like, oh, it has no sugar in it. I said, but what is the sweet taste? Why is it sweet? It has aspartame in it. That's a problem, these chemicals. When it comes to kidneys, if you're having some issues, which I have another question that's going to lead into why I said that, but what do you think about water enhancements?
You know what? As far
That
as I'm
equal water? That's the
okay,
question. That's the
okay.
same thing because I have to argue with my clients all the time. It's you drinking Kool-Aid. I tell them it's Kool-Aid. What do you do with Kool-Aid? You take a pack of Kool-Aid, you put it in the water. If you take water enhancement, you're pouring powder into it. It's Kool-Aid to me. It's just a different taste.
Yeah, yeah. But now this is what I'll tell you. So the problem with additives, whether it was tea or Kool-Aid or whatever it is, right? The body does not need some of those molecules that you're introducing, right? So the kidney's going to see it and say, you know what, I don't need to keep this. And in order to throw it away, it's going to cost a certain amount of water. So, when you're adding additives,
Mm-hmm.
you're basically kind of not efficiently adding water because some of that 8 ounces that you take in will have to be required to get rid of that additive,
So your
right?
body actually using the amount of water that it actually needs because it's trying to actually wash out the bad stuff, the extra stuff. We're
And
not
the
gonna
extra stuff.
not
Exactly.
gonna call you all country time water enhancements because that's all my clients. It's an enhancement. But okay,
No,
so
because
natural enhancements, mint, lemons, things like that. That's okay
well,
though.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we like those because the body can actually use the citric acid in
Mhm.
lemons, and so it can actually use that, so you won't waste the water trying to throw it, essentially, throw it away. So that's just as one thing just to be aware of. But uh, on a functional basis, though, I'm gonna accept because what we have to change first is behavior. And
Right.
in my experience, what I was, by the time I can get you to drinking water, even with the crystal light or with whatever the additive,
Mm-hmm.
at some point you get to thinking, you know what, I can save this $4 I'm spending on this additive, and water don't taste as bad. So I'll compromise, but the ideal way to do it is just with regular water. A lot of people choose to want to drink a lot of sodas.
My
All right.
next carbonated water or just the water, then they add carbonation to it these
Yeah,
days.
yeah, yeah. There's a little bit of a debate about carbonation because carbonation is essentially the bubbles that you see is a reaction usually when you add sodium bicarbonate to that water. So there's a good thing about that because we like the bicarbonate. It helps the body, it helps the kidney not have to get rid of an acid because it's been neutralized with the bicarb that's in it. For those folks who got the resources, I went to the grocery store the other day and I felt like I needed to back off of it. But Smart Water, they have an alkaline version of Smart Water that I generally recommend. It's good for a lot of different things. Some people it's not good for if you have certain kind of kidney stones and that kind of thing. But some is good. So you have to kind of do that in consultation with your physician. I know the Nation of Islam has kind of promoted drinking alkaline water for many years. And so there are advantages to that. But nevertheless, to drive home the major point is drinking pure water with a balanced diet is the best way. We'll take additives as a compromise, but ideally you want to do it without the additives.
All right. So now I'm going to touch on a topic that I know people in the back might be mad at me, but I'm not even going to turn around and look at them. What about alcohol? Even in moderation, I was watching the news. I don't remember which news station it was, and it was like a public service announcement, and they were saying that alcohol has been linked to cancer and other, diseases and conditions, health issues. like directly. It's been found. There's studies, and
Hmm.
so when it, I mean, what is if you drink alcohol? What do your kidneys have to do to process that? I'm just gonna keep that simple. I'm not gonna ask if it's bad or good. I don't want to upset anyone.
Yeah,
What does your kidneys actually have to do to process or to, I guess, filter through alcohol?
yeah. You know, let me let me I'll wade in that water in the shallow end. Um, Moderate. The French. There's a thing called a French paradox. And in France they drink lots of wine. And I'm saying as a country they drink lots of wine.
Right.
As individuals, you know, their wine consumption is fairly modest, and it confers the advantage of less cardiovascular disease. Something about alcohol discourages formation of blockages in major blood vessels.
Interesting.
We don't exactly understand that, but now I say that in moderation. Lay's used to have a campaign to
Moderation
say
is relative.
that is relative. That is
I don't
relative.
like just using that word because people come to me. I ate that you ate something every day in moderation. So,
Right. Now, when I say moderation, I'm talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of a 3-ounce shot of alcohol well, I'm gonna say it because I know the audience they understand of hard liquor, or 1 to 2 beers depending on your body size. We used to say 6, but we're talking about the how big you are. In that women tend to be small. But now the question is who's gonna drink 1 beer
I was
and
about
who
to say,
right?
I'm
Uh,
gonna let you have this topic. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Who's gonna drink 1 beer and whose shots is only 3 ounces of alcohol? So that's where that is. So we'll leave moderation in quotes, but generally the danger of over consuming alcohol is what the body has to deal with. One
Overconsumed alcohol.
Well, I generally say that when most folks, quote unquote, get buzzed and they have to use the bathroom the first time, that's your sign that that alcohol level has risen to the point where it's now affecting the brain and the kidneys. The brain, there's a hormone called antidiuretic hormone. It's also known as vasopressin, and so that's my nerdiness. But I'm gonna get out of that.
All
But
right.
it but it encourages the kidneys to make more pee, essentially partly maybe to get rid of the ethanol or alcohol that's in the bloodstream. So that's your first sign. That's your first sign. If you're wondering if you're at happy hour and you're wondering when have you drank enough that if you leave there and the police catches you in your car and gives you a breathalyzer,
Don't say
if you
that.
got if you
Stop.
got I'm
Because we
just
don't
saying.
want to be
I'm just
stopped.
no. I'm just so to the degree that somebody might do that, if you're
Right.
wondering how much alcohol that is for
Mm-hmm.
your body, that is when you get that first sign that you have increased urine output. All right. And certainly we don't advocate for a lot of extra molecules being put into the body, but that's for those that are interested. That's where that's at. But the damage that chronically overindulging on taking in alcohol has an effect on livers, and there's a unique relationship between the livers and kidneys
Mm-hmm.
that not only can cause cirrhosis in that liver, but
Mm-hmm.
cause kidney failure as a result of that association.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, we discourage the overconsumption of alcohol on a chronic basis. Now, and I don't mean just a daily basis. There are some folks who will go to work 5 days a week, and on the weekends they get lit. All right, and what that means is they basically they overindulge in alcohol, and with the idea that if I drink beer, it's got water in it, right? So that's okay. Or if I drink only on the weekends, that one would spare themselves of the dangers of alcohol. And it's just urban legend. It's just not true. If you do anything related to alcohol on a chronic basis that is more than you should, it's going to have effects, and it could land in the kidneys. But more dangerously, when it comes to alcohol, is it's going to land in the liver.
Oh man. I love it. Well, Dr. Green, I want one last topic to discuss before we end this wonderful. We might have to come back for a part two. I'm not sure
Hey,
yet. Then we're gonna sit back and pray about it.
Right.
Some signs that you might be having some kidney issues.
I think everybody who has hypertension knows that there is a kidney issue. Essentially, we talk about the kidneys being able to regulate the amount of volume or the amount of fluids that's in the body, and most folks blood pressure is a sign that there's too much of that blood that's in the space that we call the blood vessels. So that's your first sign that the kidneys are not able to do their job. And so in particular, people who are on multiple medications, that is also a sign. But there's other things. If you see foamy urine, that might be a sign that your body, which is supposed to be like a strainer, a filter,
Mm-hmm.
that it's failing. In the same way that if you were straining out some rice and you looked in your sink and there's rice down in the sink, well, then you know that there's a hole in that strainer. If you got a screen door and there's flies in your house, then you know something's wrong with that screen. Well, the kidneys are the same way. The kidneys are intended to maintain protein within the body. If it ends up out of the body, it can show foamy urine. So that's one thing. So those are the two primary things I think in our area: elevated blood pressures, as well as foamy urine, which we call proteinuria, protein in your urine, proteinuria. Those are two primary things where we are particularly looking or advising folks to come see us. But most folks who have a relationship with their physicians, who get regular labs, there's one of those measurements is a creatinine, and that's different than creatine. Some folks will think it's creatine, but it's creatinine. And if that is elevated, that's another sign that there's something that needs to be addressed by a kidney doctor. So yeah, I think that those are probably the top three.
Okay. Okay. So you need to go to the general health maintenance doctor and make sure you're keeping an eye on your creatinine levels.
Right.
I feel like it's a country way of saying it.
The the long the long the short creatine
It's
is
not. I was gonna
something.
go into exercise, but
Yeah.
um, and so
Let me
uh-huh,
also just make this. We're talking about fitness. I know a lot of people will have they'll start an exercise program, or they will have chronic osteoarthritis or wear and tear arthritis.
mhm,
And so the way that they will deal with that is by using things like ibuprofen, and
right.
Aleve, BC
Mhm.
powders, aspirins in higher doses. Those actually can have a negative impact on kidneys.
Say it
And
one more time. I want you to repeat that part seriously,
yes,
because
ma'am.
people
So,
really I mean, especially those who are new to exercise,
hmm
that is a big thing. People go home and they tell me I popped some Advil, and I was fine. I'm like, wait a minute, can't do that every time we work out. But
that's
go
right.
ahead.
That's right. Yeah. So the use we call them NSAIDs, but it's a family of them. It's oral diclofenac, which we call that Voltaren. Some people, or BC powders or standbacks, right? But high doses of aspirin, ibuprofens, which are on the market as Motrins, Aleves, any of those uses. If you're doing that every day, that's something that we want to stay away from. A big part of my practice actually are people who have been otherwise healthy, who have had kidney damage by using those agents. So we both want to encourage exercise, but we
Mhm.
want to do it in a safe way. And so if you're one of those folks who are using, or just folks who come home from, may not be exercising, folks who come home from work every day, folks who have chronic headaches, who are using those medications to kind of get day by day, that's something that we discourage. And if that's something that we do, then you definitely need a doctor that's keeping an eye on your kidneys to find the early signs that may be damaged.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that was valuable as well. All right. Well, Dr. Green, is there anything in our last minutes that you want to leave us with? And I'm going to say in relation to taking care of your kidneys and exercise.
hmm
Is there
Uh,
anything you want to leave us with?
well, look. Taking care of your health yourself is hard. By the time that all of us who are children of God, we try to take care of our neighbors, our enemies, and of course our families as ourselves. It is easy to let those 7 days run by and we not do things that will take care of us, with the lie or the deceit of the devil that it will be okay and I will have time. And so what I just want to encourage people to know is you don't have as much time as you think you do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you neglect those things, if you are slothful in business, the way that business is not just in terms of your finances, it's in terms of your body, which is your best asset.
Mm-hmm.
So I encourage everybody to establish a relationship with a healthcare provider. I know there's a lot of systemic difficulties and obstacles to doing that, whether that's about resources, but find someone that you can trust and that you can have conversations about maintaining your health. And if there are advanced things that are needed in terms of resources, what I know is that the Lord will provide. So I maintain a practice. I'm not going to say on the radio because there's somebody out there in Medicare or Blue Cross Blue Shield who's going to say, "Well, you taking two pieces boxes of chicken from them, but you're taking big money from us." But nevertheless, I will work with anybody who is sick best I can to take care of them because that's my charge. And so at my clinic, we do have cash plans that I think that are affordable alternatives to having insurance, and we also have mechanisms to find insurance for the levels of resources that you have. So all in all, take care of yourself. The money that you spend on yourself is the best money that you're going to spend.
How can they get in touch with you?
Well, my clinic is at 2406 Lakeland Drive, Suite 310. The phone number there is 769-572-7496. Again, 769-572-7496. And that's Good Faith Wellness. And that's the best way to get in touch with me. But if you see me worshiping on Sundays, or you happen to witness me infrequently as as it is at Planet Fitness, feel free to stop me because I'm a servant first, and I essentially want all God's children to meet their potentials and not be hindered by their health.
And where do you worship?
My family church at Chapel Hill Missionary Baptist Church. It's on Chapel Hill Road out there in Bolton.
In Bolton. All
In
right, guys.
Bolton.
There you have it. Take care of your kidneys. Again, physical activity, exercise is more important than you think. Drinking water. I mean, there's so many things, signs and symptoms. If you have more questions, you just want to get checked out, take a look at some things and see what you need to improve upon. Call Dr. Green. Stop by his clinic in Flowood, or you can go to his church in Bolton, and try your best to be as healthy as you can and take care of the temple that God gave you. All right, guys, until next time, we thank you and see you again on 90.1 WMPR. I am Ask Astria, talking about life, health, and the pursuit of fitness, and we'll see you next week. Let's get into it.
Started from nothing. Now I charge per breath. I was overlooked. Now I'm booked past death. Had tables turned. I flipped the room. Now they whisper my name like I'm bad juju. I birthed trends they try to mimic. Did it solo, ain't no gimmick. They took notes while throwing shade. Now they pressed and I got paid. I'm not one of them. I'm one of one. Trying to match my glow. Baby, you're outdone. I'm made for bigger. Not basic. Made for thrones, not fake shit. I don't chase, I check. I don't follow, I flex. I'm made for bigger things. Tell the room I said what I said. Big body blessings, big boss moves. Try me and end up a lesson. They talk about me in rooms I don't enter. I haunt them like regret, make them bitter in the center. I'm that girl, the headline in the smoke. They playing in mirrors, I'm shattering.